Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm bringing you guys into another lesson of preparing for Brain Bee competition, and today we're going to talk about neurons and neurotransmitter. So if you're currently preparing for Brain Bee competition or just enjoying more about the brain and then wanting to learn about the brain, please subscribe to my channel and so that you get notified every time when I post a brand new video, which I will help you to prepare for the Brain Bee competition. And let's get right into it. So, as I said, this is the class 2. We're still on the chapter of brain basics and functions, but today we're just going to talk more about the neurons and neurotransmitter. So, for the first part, we're going to talk about neurons, and the second part, we're going to talk about neurotransmitters. So let's talk about what is neuron. So neurons are cells within the nervous system, and they're called neurons. And we communicate with each other, in fact, are because of we have neurons, and they're the basic working unit of the brains. And they communicate with each other. Basically, they consist every single typical neurons look like the one here that shows you, like inside the neuron it looks like that. So basically we call it neural anatomy. It consists of cell body, dendrites, axons, and so forth. There are a lot of things going on in the neurons, and we're going to talk about it in just a sec. So what does neuron look like? So we're mainly discussing these 4 parts of the neuron. So first one is synapse. So synapses are actually the contact point where one neuron communicate with another one. So dendrites are full cover with synapse because dendrites are responsible for receiving messages from other neurons, and these synapses help dendrites to to make sure that they do their job right, and so that's why dendrites are covered with synapse. So dendrites are here, as you can see, the pink ones, and then synapses are just like covering all of these. And in the middle there is cell body. Cell body is the circle one, and in the middle it's called nucleus. So axon is the one that extend from the cell body and go onto the nerve terminals. So axons, they extend from the cell body, and it basically just send out information, and they're covered with myelin sheath on the top. So myelin sheath cover the axon, and their job is to accelerate the transmission of electrical signals along the axon. So they just make it with more speed so that axons can transfer these electrical signals with a better speed. And these myelin sheath consists of something like a specialized cell called glia. So there are a lot of glia, and there are at least 10 times more glia than neurons. So glia are basically, they support nutrients to neurons, they clean up brain like trash, and digest parts of dead neurons. So they basically just make sure the neurons are right to work, and then they're ready to go whenever they want to work. And down here is the nerve terminal. So at the nerve terminal, that's where it triggers the release of neurotransmitter, which we're going to talk later. So specifically, how does neuron work? So we talked about that it's because of it, like they send out electrical impulses from one to another, but nerve impulses are they depend on the opening and closing of ion channels. So basically, how does these nerve impulse form is because of opening and closing of ion channels. Ions are electrically charged atoms or small molecules to center or leave the cell. And the ability of neuron generating electrical impulse depends on the difference in charge between the inside and outside of the cell. So basically, we're going to talk about action potential. So as we talked about that neuron generate electrical impulse because, because of the difference between inside and outside of the cell. And action potential is where it takes place as the neuron switches from internal negative charge to a positive charge state. So this switch from the negative charge to positive charge in the neurons are called action potentials. And they passes along the axon's membrane and it speeds up like 100 miles per hour. So they're pretty fast. Well, as we talked, that at the nerve terminal, they trigger the release of neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are classified here with different types. So we're mainly just going to talk about these for our competition. So the first one is acetylcholine. So it's also, so for short, it's called as ACH. So the ACH is mainly just for controlling the voluntary muscles, causing them to contract, control the heartbeat. It's also related to normal attention, memory, and sleep. So that's why you see that ACH release in neurons die in Alzheimer's patients. And so ACH is usually broken down by the enzyme called acetylcholinesterase. So it's a specific enzyme that broke down ACH. And that's all you need to know for the competition. So basically for neurotransmitters, you just have to remember their function, how do they actually work, and then just some basic information. Next one, amino acids. So amino acids, they are made of proteins and they serve as building blocks of protein. So there are two types of amino acids. One is GABA and another is glutamate. So GABA is spelled as GABA. So GABA it just inhibit the firing of neurons. So for short, it shut down the brain. And on the other hand, we have glutamate. So the glutamate spelled as GLUTAMATE, and it is an excitatory signal. So that turns on the brain. That's all you have to know about amino acids. Oh, by the way, so glutamate are received by receptors called NMDA receptor, and normal stimulation of these receptors may promote beneficial changes in the brain, but if there is overstimulation, it can cause nerve cell damage or cell death. Next one, catecholamines. So it have two types. One is dopamine and another is norepinephrine. So dopamine, I think you guys might have already heard about it. It's usually, function is to make sure regulate mood, movements, cognitions, and also they helps to regulate the endocrine system. So endocrine system basically include pituitary gland, and they just helps to regulate these kind of endocrine system. So on the other hand, norepinephrine is to regulate heart rate and blood pressure. And it also plays a main role in both learning and memory. Next up, we have serotonin. So it is a particularly blood platelets and the lining of the digestive tract. So it helps with sleep, quality, mood, depression, anxiety. So a lot of antidepressant drugs target to this neurotransmitter because it regulates depression and also mood. Next up, peptides. They are the short chains of amino acids. They're OPM-like neurotransmitters. So, for example, one of them are called endorphins. It's spelled as ENDORPHINs, basically meaning the endogenous morphin. So the precise role we are not clear about it, but we think it relates to minimize the stress and minimize pain after a painful behavior or an act. Next up, trophic factors. They are substances that are necessary for the development, function, and survival of specific groups of neurons. So basically, they make sure the survival and maintain a good health for the neurons. And one example is, you're going to learn about it later. It's called nerve growth factor, for short NGF. It's a type of trophic factors. And yeah, lastly, hormones. So hormones, unlike others, so neurotransmitters are usually used in the nervous system, but the hormones are used for endocrine system. So they communicate similar to neurotransmitter. They trigger the release and then they send signals with each other, but they are just responsible for the endocrine system. And there's different hormones like androgens, estrogens, and there are different sex hormones. So basically, androgens are for women, and estrogens are for men, for guys. So like they make sure the sexual maturation and also helps to stimulate the ovulation for the female. So yeah, that's all we have for today's lesson. Thank you for watching this video. If you find this video helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want more videos like this, and I'll update as soon as possible about these. And yeah, see you next time.